Are we live?
Yeah, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. Welcome.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. This is Yvonne from My Hello Kitchen and Dr. Madiha, Holistic Mom MD. We are live on our Facebook and our YouTube channels for the next hour. And today we're going to talk about breakfast ideas to optimize your immune health. So we have lots of great ideas for other shows. This is the one that we decided to do this week because the last couple of weeks we talked about an overall of immune health. And last week we talked about shopping for immune health. And so you can look back at our feeds. Also in my newsletter, myhellokitchen.com/subscribe. You could find an overview of that and so on our websites as well. myhellokitchen.com, holisticmommd.com. So there's lots of information in both of our social media places. So, we're going to take questions throughout this webinar. So if you have any questions, just go ahead and ask them either on YouTube or Facebook, either one of our pages, and we will get those questions. We may answer them during the episode or after, depending on where we are in the cooking process, right?
Absolutely.
Cooking. You're going to be talking about your favorite breakfast food. So you want to go first?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, because let's get started. Woohoo! Well, we all know breakfast and now science is sort of proving it may not be the best meal of the day, but it's super important to eat breakfast healthy and nutrient dense. Why? Because of the fact that breakfast is break fast. So some people actually now have been intermittent fasting, which is this new thing that a lot of people are doing. And I did want to quickly discuss that because intermittent fasting, there's so many benefits to intermittent fasting, and that it promotes weight loss and keeps your heart healthy and protects your brain. It improves your blood sugar level. It actually reduces inflammation. They've done a study in 2015 that found that longer durations of nighttime fasting was associated with the decreased markers of inflammation and actually decreases hunger. So that is super important. So the longer somebody,
Every time we meet up, you're always intermittent fasting. I noticed that.
Yeah, because for me, my body feels so much better. Mm-hmm. But when we do break our fast, we have to make sure that they're healing breakfasts. And I think that's what we're going to dive right into, because I know that, I don't know about in Turkey, because I can't wait to hear everything delicious that they do in Turkey. But here in the United States, it's carb fest. I mean, we all look at breakfast as, whoa, we can basically have dessert for breakfast.
Yeah,
which isn't appropriate.
Heavy. And it's like that around the world. I noticed it's a little bit more protein heavy in other parts of the world.
And which we really have to start to change that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
because remember, specifically when we start really focusing on breakfast and lunch and dinner and snacks. I mean, we like to, again, a lot of people are carb heavy, but wheat now is what we really that becomes like the star of all of our meals. Yeah. And unfortunately, the problem is that in the last 50 years, this modern wheat has been hybridized and manipulated to form super starch. What's also called amylopectin A, that raises your blood sugar higher than others. It leads to insulin resistance that we talked about at the first talk that me and you did together. It's sprayed with massive amount of chemical pesticides and fertilizers. And then this high yielding gluten, wheat has basically, has much higher gluten than amphytic acid, which is another thing that we'll talk about, but amylopectin and all of these things that we talked about, but very fewer nutrients. So what it's really crazy is that where it used to be 14 some chromosomes and now is 44 some chromosomes, that our body lacks those enzymes.
14 and 44. What are you talking about when you talk about chromosomes?
Well, what happens is it's been such hybridized and changed. It's no longer the same gluten that we used to be eating, where our ancestors used to be eating.
Right.
Because this is where it's been changed. So that's why been turned into this high yielding dwarf wheat that is, again, this gluten protein is larger. Then that's why we lack the specific enzymes to break it down. Our body can't digest it properly. And then when our bodies can't digest it properly, what happens is these partially digested molecules come in contact with the small intestine, and we know where our immune system, the house of our immune system lies, is in the gut. So when our house of our immune system, because these partially digested proteins that we are unable to digest properly because they've been so changed that our body can't digest it properly anymore, when it gets in contact with the digestive tract, it sparks this immune system reaction and leads to inflammation. And that is what's really powerful.
What about ancient grains? I see those at the grocery store now, and I'm wondering, are ancient grains the thing we should be eating instead if we're going to have wheat products or grains?
Absolutely. Like, that's whole grain. So those are better for you. But unfortunately, what's happened is a lot of people can't even tolerate those because we've been eating the wrong gluten for so long. These glutens, I think we briefly discussed zonulin. These gluten cause your gut cells to release something called zonulin. And zonulin is a protein that can loosen the tight junctions in the intestinal lining, and that creates this permeable barrier and leading to leaky gut syndrome and increased intestinal permeability. And remember, gluten not only just leads to leaky gut, but it can also lead to problems with blood sugar regulation and problems with obesity, insulin resistance, and then that adds to the fire, which causes further inflammation.
Yeah, and we covered that in the first episode.
In a lot of detail. Absolutely.
So anybody to look at that could just go back 2 weeks on our timeline. They'll also be on our websites, but they're not up yet. So go ahead and scroll through our timelines, and you'll see the very first episode, which was an overview where Dr. Saeed explained everything related to the gut. It's just fascinating. It was almost 2 hours, right? It's really long.
Yeah, we did it.
But it's very, very beneficial. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's why we really need to now start to move away from, I really want to focus on nutrient dense foods. And in some cases, you were talking about those ancient grains, which are really great for people. But if somebody's really suffering from a chronic condition, grains can lead to, leaky gut, feeds those bad bacteria, damage the intestinal lining, grains actually can be problematic because it leads to, they do contain this amylopectin. So all these things. So it can cause more problems in some people. But again, we all want you to move in the right direction. So that's why ancient grains are a better option. Whole grains are a better option. But again,
in Turkey, I even stopped eating a lot of the breads because I really felt like, there's a lot of white flour there. I mean, it still seems a lot healthier than in the US, but I just slowly kind of got it out of my life. And the breakfast I'm going to show you guys today, I don't even eat it with bread, but traditionally it is eaten with bread. But now I'm back in the US, and I was suffering from some allergies, right, from my cat, really bad. And I sort of been eliminating most dairy, and I don't have any breads at all. And it seems to be tapering off. I wonder if it has anything to do with the diet at all.
It does make a huge difference, because we know that all of these grains, and for most people, grains and dairy and sugar and all these things that we normally our breakfasts are comprised of, can actually lead to inflammation, feed that inflammatory cycle. And what I've noticed is that when I give my family and my kids, when I give them grains, or they don't eat their vegetables, clean protein, and healthy fats, because I really want people to focus on nutrient dense foods that are going to help heal our bodies, not hurt our bodies. But you're like, oh no, can I not have all those delicious foods that I could,
Yeah, I think it just takes a shift, right? I grew up with cereal was the norm. I mean, most kids in America grow up on cereal. and milk and a little orange juice. And I always remember going to school feeling like a little bit heavy and tired.
Yes, me too.
And then it was oatmeal in the winter, and oatmeal's technically, healthy, but that instant stuff is just stripped of all the, healthy things. And as I got older and started meeting people from different cultures, different parts of the world, and seeing, how they eat breakfast. I mean, look, a typical Middle Eastern breakfast is like beans, right? Ful, the Egyptian ful, and they have, cucumbers and tomatoes and some pita breads and stuff, but olive oil. I was fascinated by that. I think that was one of the first international kind of breakfast I saw. In Italy, they don't have much of a breakfast. It's like coffee and maybe like a cookie or something. I mean, that's not too healthy. But there's kind of like a intermittent fasting, if you will, because they don't really eat at breakfast. It's like the main meal is sort of later. So
Wow.
and even there was like American. It was called an American thing. It was a big deal if you bought a box of Frosted Flakes or something, because it was considered, it was very expensive. And I mean, this is many years ago. I don't know how that is now. And then in Turkey, it's just a whole different ballgame. And breakfast is like a breakfast of champions. And it's typically like a Sunday breakfast, but I was doing this almost every day because I just felt so good eating it. But we're going to let you go first. So you go and tell us all your breakfast recommendations, and then I'm going to cook.
So remember, lots of vegetables, clean protein, healthy fats is really what we want to focus on. And so like nutrient dense foods. And again, a lot of people like to have oatmeal for breakfast, right? And I find that like now the research has shown that, I mean, we're not going to steel cut oats, we're going to the instant oats. And those instant oats has been shown to spike your blood sugar, elevated your insulin levels, adrenaline, your sugar, cortisol, and make you hungrier. So yes, they just because the American Heart Association has labeled it as heart healthy, which basically we'll talk about that another time, where they've paid a lot of money to put the AHA seal on their label. But what happens is that actually it's not the oatmeal, it's oat bran. And usually oatmeal is mostly is loaded with sugar and actually has been associated with more of like, hasn't really been associated with heart health improvement. So again, I want it instead of like oatmeal. People are like, well, I want cereal, I want oatmeal for breakfast. And so again, remember,
can I interrupt you for 1 second?
No.
Put yourself full screen so that everybody can focus on you. And I'm going to be prepping my breakfast so that when you're done.
Okay.
All right. So that way everybody can focus.
Okay. So sorry. So yes. So Yvonne is prepping. So we can go ahead and talk about all of these great different solutions really quick. And so remember, we want to make sure that we have nutrient dense foods. So I always cook with like things that will really keep your blood sugar balanced, your body satiated, and your gut healthy. And that a lot of people can do really well with, again, chia pudding. So chia seeds are an amazing form of like omega-3s. You can actually buy them at large size at Costco. They're omega-3, they're gluten-free, you can get organic, they have tons of fiber and calcium. So I use a little bit of coconut, of the chia seeds, and then I add some coconut milk to it. So again, you're getting a lot of the different types of flavors. If you look and if you let this just soak, I just put this together in the morning, and it really turns into this delicious like pudding type. And you can add like maple syrup, and you can add all of these other delicious foods. And what's really cool is that you can even make it like into a parfait. I have some berries at the bottom. Remember, fruit is such packed with like phytonutrients. So it's really important to incorporate that into your daily routine. And then people are also saying, okay, why didn't you use milk? Because again, a lot of people have sensitivities to milk. And normally milk should easily separate for easy digestion. But now because of the homogenation and pasteurization, to kill the bacteria, it's actually destroying lots of healthy probiotics, vitamins, minerals, enzymes, nutritious proteins that actually, and a lot of people, can't tolerate and can't digest that lactose. So I really go for more nutrient dense foods that will help to heal. And that's why I love the coconut milk, because the coconut milk will satiate you. You only need a little bit because it has that high nutrient density to help you keep you satiated. So shukr alhamdulillah. So I think that's what we really need to now really get into. And so you can even just layer this in just like so, which is so delicious. And then here's to have some extra berries. We'll put some extra berries in this. And then we can layer this again. You see berries, ooh, yum. And then we can layer this again. And then this is what I really do. My kids love this for breakfast. And then I have actually a no-grain granola. A lot of people are like, ooh, I want my no-grain granola. I need something. And I'll talk about it. And I'll top it with some no-grain granola. And that is a delicious parfait. And so you can actually have delicious, like oatmeal type consistency, but actually have more nutrient density. And remember, because all the fruit has so many beneficial properties. Then let's go ahead and talk about your delicious other alternatives for cereal. Because again, cereal, they're like, oh, we want our cereals. But again, the cereals, there's not enough nutrient density in cereal because there's really nothing there. Now, nuts and seeds are a great sort of protein and minerals and fiber and essential fatty acids. And they're potent, anti-androgenic, omega-3, all of these deliciousness. They've actually done studies that nuts and seeds can actually, lower and improve the risk of cardiovascular disease and cancers. It improves brain function. It's actually good for your weight loss and improves cholesterol and prevents your blood glucose from spiking, lowers the risk of type 2 diabetes and even the risk of death. So again, super important. Seeds, again, packed with healthy fats and fibers and antioxidants, omega-3s, and reduces inflammation and improves gut function. So I create a cereal out of this. I take sunflower seeds, flax seeds, pumpkin seeds, make it all delicious, roast it up with a little bit of coconut oil, because remember, coconut oil and avocados, you want to make sure you have those healthy fats in your diet, because those healthy fats, like specifically like coconut oil, is anti-inflammatory, antifungal, antibacterial, antimicrobial, and actually combats viral infections, great for, reduces inflammation, raises your HDL, improves your cholesterol, improves heart health, it fights off fungus, it improves your insulin balance. So basically the list goes on to really incorporate that. So I add a little bit of that. And then again, honey, I add the sweetener that I normally use is honey. And that honey is, again, super healing because of the fact that, it really goes in, like honey is like one of the least processed sweetener, full of antioxidants, vitamins and minerals, and it lowers inflammation and aids your gut in acting like a prebiotic. We talked about that in the first video, so go back to that. And neutralizing free radicals, improves allergies, coughs, asthma. And then, so that's super important to really, I add a little bit of that, a little bit of cinnamon, toast that, and it comes out super crunchy and delicious. And you can have it with some coconut milk, some almond milk, and then top it with some berries. Ooh, yum, some berries. And now you have this cereal that is super nutrient dense. Now, quickly, I'm just going to talk about one more thing, and then we're going to shift to two more things, and I'm going to shift to Yvonne, who is ready to, we're going to put the focus all on her because she's going to do this cooking demonstration. That's so exciting. But again, remember we talked about the benefits of, you're like, oh my God, but I want my waffles and my cakes and my pancakes. You can do them all with different types of almond flours. So this is where I have a delicious almond flour. You can buy them at Costco. You can buy them anywhere. I have a large family, so that's what I do. And check this out. Do you see how delicious this looks? And then once you add in, oh my gosh, here we go, some maple syrup. Now check this out. So you can still have deliciousness. And look at this. So we'll just add some maple syrup to this. So you can still have a lot of fun, but have your waffles. But then guess what? What is this waffle made out of? This waffle is made out of bananas. It's made out of 2 bananas, 4 eggs, And we're going to talk about pasture-raised, and me and Yvonne will talk about that because that's really important in a Turkish breakfast. But pasture-raised eggs and then almond flour. That is it. It took me seconds, and it turns out to this delicious waffle. And remember, we talked about different types of sweeteners, molasses. We talked about last time. Maple syrup is super beneficial, and I get the raw ones. You can get raw organic maple syrup. It's super beneficial for lots of, antioxidants, decreases your your plasma glucose, which is crazy. It protects you from cancer. And then remember, we talked about molasses last time, from the sugar, and actually has the same amount of antioxidants as even blueberries. So there's so many different types of sugars out there. But then again, if you can't tolerate that, you can actually get things with, you can actually get stuff with that, again, organic stevia is like a plant extract, and it doesn't raise your blood sugar level. So that's something really fun. And then, so in my family, in my house, we always have vegetables. So we go through vegetables, clean protein, and healthy fats in our house. So we focus on vegetables, clean protein, healthy fats, real foods, right? So vegetables, clean protein, healthy fats. So every meal that my kids go through, it's vegetables, clean protein, healthy fats. And this is what I tell my patients all the time, to really focus on vegetables, clean protein, and healthy fats. So what kind of vegetables can you add into your daily routine? And that is, remember, at my house, we do smoothies on a regular basis. So delicious smoothies. In this one specifically, my kids love this. I actually put like spinach, collards, kale, cauliflower. So if you put riced cauliflower in smoothie, the kids cannot tell. And nobody can really tell. And then I add some, remember the phytonutrients of fruit. So some blueberries, strawberries, just a little bit of blueberries, strawberries, and even amla, which is tons of antioxidants, and even pomegranates, because there's a specific type of gut bacteria that is super nourishing, and that you can only get from pomegranates, and that's called acromantia. Acromantia helps keep our body healthy. So that is and then I'll add collagen. You can get Zabiha halal, collagen and kosher collagen, and so many different types of collagen that add to the protein to really give it, to help heal and seal the gut, because collagen is really important for gut healing. The other things, again, the other types of vegetables we love to have, and I know Yvonne's going to talk about this too, like the vinegars and the olives. And in my house, we always have sauerkraut for breakfast. Sauerkraut is super gut healing. It's amazing. This one specifically has seaweed and turmeric in it, and there's so many different, vinegars that, different breakfasts have. And then, so those are my vegetables, clean protein, eggs, and then, different types of proteins is amazing for breakfast. And hemp, if you don't want to go into like the non-veg protein, there's also the vegetarian type of protein is like hemp seed. So I'll add hemp seed powder to my smoothies. Like a tablespoon is so many packed with nutrient dense phytonutrients. Plus on top of that, it's really protein dense. So hemp protein. Then we have is your healthy fats. And this is where me and Yvonne I'm gonna bring Yvonne back in, be talking about the importance of olives, right? Because I always have olives for my breakfast. I love them.
Oh yeah, me too.
And I know it's huge in the Turkish breakfast.
Oh yeah, there's sometimes 2 or 3 different kinds. So my breakfast is a little different, but you have kids, so it's different. And I also have a little more time and flexibility in the mornings, but this is a good weekend breakfast, I think, for a lot of people. In Turkish breakfast, like the kahvaltı, the one that people see like spreads of, is typically a Sunday breakfast in Turkey. But it can go really fast, depending on how many people you have. So what I do is we have eggs with spinach and some side dishes. Well, I'll talk about that are always on the table. And then I do a quick potato dish. So I do the small potatoes. They're like, let's see. Hold on. If you can get the small ones, they cook faster. I cut them in 4.
Nutrient dense.
Are they really much more?
Yes.
So I just cut them into 4s, and I put them in a dish that's, you can put in the oven. A little bit of olive oil, and then black pepper, if you like it, and salt. And then I like to put a really powerful herb like oregano, like a really freshly dried oregano. Oregano just tastes medicinal to me.
I love it.
And it goes awesome with potatoes. So I get the kind that's sort of still on the stem. It's just
yes, and oregano is super antimicrobial, by the way.
yes,
it's
antiviral.
Antiviral, antimicrobial, yes, super important.
And it just goes great with potatoes. So all I do is I start that off first. Start the potatoes off first. And then I just literally, the oven is already preheated, and then I just stick them in the oven. So by the time everything else is done, these are like nice and crispy. Now, what I have is let me see if I can move the camera a little bit. There. You might not be able to see me exactly, but there. Okay, so in the pan, I sauteed some onion and garlic in the olive oil and some spinach. Like in Turkey, I always have the fresh spinach because it's just abundant, like all the time. But here I do the frozen just because I know it's good. And you just you can throw it in frozen and it just kind of melts away. So it's fine. And make sure you get organic. That's a must for greens. Okay, so then I just, cook it down till like water is evaporated. Then I add a little bit of garlic. So it's just one garlic clove that is nicely minced. It smells so nice and powerful. And then I like to put, you don't have to do this, but I like to put like a red pepper or tomato paste inside. So that's what, calcium, vitamin C.
Oh my God, everything. It's so good.
So one red pepper paste, 1 spoon. And then I do 1 spoon of the tomato paste. I keep big jars of this stuff, and then after each use, I make sure it's covered in olive oil, and then it doesn't spoil. So it's really good. So then I just let this kind of cook together.
I love that. Oh my God, adding your greens to your morning breakfast is so powerful.
This makes me feel strong throughout the rest of the day. It's like Popeye and olive oil.
No, it is. It really makes a big difference because remember these green veggies, either
I have like this. I personally I can't do
yum.
Different.
Yum, yum, yum.
I don't have all these greens every day, but as much as possible. And if I don't have spinach, I'll do kale. I'll do
yum.
Mustard, any greens. But it is so important to get greens. And one thing I learned in Turkey was the plethora of greens that they use. We are not eating enough greens in this country.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're like eating, a little bit, and then I see it. Their plates are full of these things, and people are shopping with bags and bags of greens. Like that is just so healthy. It's so
healthy. And it is because remember green vegetables have packed with phytochemicals. And then, which basically help raise your specifically like sulforaphanes, which raise your glutathione and boosts detoxification and actually inhibits carcinogens. So, super powerful to incorporate the vegetables in your daily routine on a daily basis.
Well, and I just feel stronger. I don't have that pre-diabetic issue anymore. I don't, because I'm also not eating too much bread. I mean, on occasion I'll have a little bit to scoop it up, but I'm not going crazy. It's 10 o'clock. Because I feel very full. I feel satisfied. I get hungry, of course, but it's like a natural hunger at lunchtime or something.
Absolutely.
But I have energy throughout the day. Okay, so this is cooking down a little bit. I don't want to dry it out, but while I'm doing that, let me show you what else is going to be on the table.
Yay!
So, a Turkish breakfast is going to have also, some olives, maybe 2 or 3 different types. I'm going to have cucumbers, maybe some tomatoes if they're in season and good. But what I do with my cucumbers is I add sumac to them.
Ooh, tons of spices. Great spices are delicious. Yeah. Awesome.
And some parsley, a little bit of parsley.
Super phytonutrient, actually helps with detoxification.
Tiny bit of dill. And some lemon juice. Let's see. I got lemons in the fridge.
I remember like the garlic and onions that Yvonne is using for these dishes. Again, antimicrobial, immune boosting, anti-cancer, anti-tumor. So make sure to, use those in your daily routines and in your foods.
You
Super
can
powerful.
on here too if you like. Oops. So I'm going to jump back to the eggs because they're ready. So when you do this spinach dish, you kind of have to make a little room inside, like a little circle. So then that's where you drop the eggs in. So.
Oh, and again, this is the best time to talk about, I think, about eggs. I mean, super packed with nutrients and excellent source of choline, which is great for your brain health. But again, also really good for detoxification. And then full of antioxidants, minerals, vitamins, vitamin D. The eggs actually protect against heart disease. But remember to buy pasture organic eggs.
Yeah.
So,
for me, the real telling mark is, how golden those yolks are. It tells me that chickens have gotten their vitamin D. If they get their vitamin D, then you get the vitamin D, and that's what we need. So.
And you can get now all these organic. I go to these grocery stores with organic eggs, but you can't. I mean, the yolks are just like blah. Like they're very light yellow. So
I know.
I try to really go for the pasture-raised eggs, and you can even find them in America. You can find them at your local grocery store. So it's very easy.
Your own chickens do it.
Yes. Oh my God. I know. That's like the best.
There's nothing like, backyard chickens. I kind of miss seeing that over there. Everybody had them, and the egg yolks were just so golden, But you can find that here if you look. And if you, find a good source of eggs, just keep getting them. Okay, so we have the cucumbers, olives, some good cheese. So we do a combination of things like, let's see, I don't know if I have that much here. Like a hard cheese, I'll do like a little bit of maybe a Parmesan. Or, I don't know, it just depends. Some people don't like the hard cheeses, but there's also the soft cheeses like goat cheese. I'm almost done with this because I found it here, but it's a Turkish ezine cheese. And it's, I think you can get it goat or cow. It's kind of like semi-soft, but I try to go with the raw milk cheese personally. And I like goat cheese much better. It's easier for my stomach to digest, and I don't have a lot of it. Just very easy on the dairy, based on what you told me. Kind of wanted me to eliminate all, but I need a little bit, so I don't go overboard with it anymore, and I feel it. My body feels better. Also, we're gonna have always some honey on the table.
Ooh, yum!
Always some honey, and sometimes if we have it, honeycomb, like the fresh honeycomb, and you just, take some bread and scoop out the honeycomb and eat it. I mean, I don't know how many of you have had honeycomb before, but people sometimes say, what do you do with it? You eat it, and it should chew a little bit like gum. It kind of is like that, but less chewy, but it's delicious. And just go with like a local honey. I usually put that on the table, and then always some fruit, like whatever fruit's in season. Like summertime will be watermelon. Right now I've got cherries, so I set that up like that. So the eggs are almost done cooking, and let me see if I can find a towel.
No, that's awesome. And remember, the raw focusing, because we've been eating the wrong dairy for so long, a lot of people can't tolerate it. But once you start healing your body, you're going to be able to start tolerating dairy again. And then that's where you really want to focus on the raw dairy once you've healed. And that's why I love these Turkish breakfasts, because they don't just have one different type. They have like goat, and then actually goat's milk kefir really helps boost like healthy fats. And raw milk actually does help to improve your gut flora, modulates the epigenetics, increasing your gut microdiversity, but it's that raw that is really important.
Also with the Turkish breakfast, I've learned a lot of lessons from it. And every family is so different. Every restaurant is so different. But it's very vegetable heavy. I saw one TV episode where a woman was doing her family's Turkish breakfast, and she had like cooked mushrooms or something, and the broadcaster said, well, why mushrooms? That's not typical. She's like, well, I just like them. But the fact that there's vegetables, like, it's just intense. The protein is not a lot. There's not a lot of eggs. Sometimes there's the sucuk, which is the cured beef. But you got to be careful with that because you don't know like what kind of nitrates are in it or anything like that. But it's not heavy on those things. It's really
vegetable heavy.
Vegetables, and then there will be fruits as like the dessert. So the honey comes at the end. The fruit comes at the end. Of course, there's the tea.
Beautiful.
But it just, you feel very satisfied, and you don't walk away feeling like you've got like a stone in your stomach or you're falling asleep. Like if I have a carb heavy breakfast, before I even get up off the table, I feel like I'm falling asleep.
Oh, absolutely. I know.
I just don't want to feel like that. So, if you look.
So and then great spices too, right? The spices you use.
So in this dish, it's not cooked yet. In this dish, I'll put my red peppers on top.
Ooh, yum!
Like that, I just like crush them up a little bit.
Inflammatory. I love it, love it, love it.
Yeah, just this is like I'm a changed person. This is how I will, eat. And I mean, it can be controversial for people to eat. People don't think eggs are good every day, but I feel great with eggs.
Everybody's different.
Everybody's different, right? But again, I think it's about not going overboard, making sure your food has the quality in it, and you're just not overdoing it. I think sometimes we can, as a society in the U.S., I think one thing that happens to us is like when something becomes trendy or popular, we tend to just overdo it. And
we do overdo it.
A balance. We need to have a harmonious relationship with food. And when you're eating healthy, nutrient-dense, real food, I think it's almost as if it's no fail because you can't overdo it. Your body just won't let you. You just
you're leptin actually, because remember, all of these artificial processed foods go and inhibit your leptin that makes you want to eat more and more and more. While these nutrient-dense foods, you're right. Your body just doesn't. It says stop. I'm done. I'm good now. Thank you.
Yes,
that makes a big difference.
Yes, and that's what I've learned. I mean, when I was in high school and college, I was a big dieter, and I used to work out like crazy and diet like crazy, and I thought it was all about the calories because that's what you read in magazines. It was all about the calories, but what about the quality of the food? And I was fortunate enough to see how other people around the world were eating, and I think, oh my God, what are we doing for the sake of convenience? We're just like sacrificing real food. And I think what you have shown people, my breakfast is maybe a little slower, but what you have shown people is that you can make something, a lot quicker and for kids, and it can be just so
for everybody, right?
Well, for everybody, but particularly for busy moms,
Oh, absolutely.
So I think there's a good balance here. I think if you combine both of our ideas, you really can get some exciting, colorful, just real food on your plate. And when your family's excited about eating and they say, ooh, that's going to make them eat healthier, right? They're going to enjoy that, and they're not going to want the junk that's out there. That's really important. They're going to know the difference. Your taste buds, they say after like 7 times of tasting something that it gets acclimated. I don't know like the science behind that, but
no, it does. So then my kids, I know they do not want anything different. Like when you go and say, do you want this artificial chemicals? And they're like, are you kidding me? No, I want the real food.
Right.
The nutrient-dense foods.
Kids and family members, they will taste the difference after a while. They'll say, what was that I just had before? What I just had outside? And they'll prefer what you're making at home. So, or sending, for lunch or whatever. So I think that that's the reason we're doing this kind of series, is because we want people to, kind of go back to the basics. I think everything you talked about, it's like this is new science that you're mentioning. You're talking about all these discoveries that scientists are finding and doctors are researching and all of this, but it kind of goes back to the traditional ways of eating. Like traditional societies knew something about the gut that we've lost along the way. It's like lost wisdom, and we need to regain that back. And it's not to say like, I said this in our last episode, it's not about, one culture over the other, right? I'm not saying, oh, everybody should eat like this. Every culture has a version of what you're talking about, what I'm talking about. So, you may not want to use olive oil, use coconut oil, use whatever healthy, real, natural oil is available in your culture, for your taste buds. I tend to gravitate towards a Mediterranean diet because that's what my body feels best on. And I think that's something we'll have to pay attention to as well. What makes you feel good, but not in the superficial way, not in that, junk food kind of feel good way, right?
Absolutely. So pay attention to your body. Again, super important to see what best serves you. Because remember, everybody is different. But again, just going back to the basics, getting back to those nutrient-dense foods for breakfast is really, really important.
Yeah, totally.
But the thing is, and it's super fast because, you just did an entire meal in like minutes. I'm like so impressed.
My potatoes are already sizzling. They're at 350 for 10 minutes, and another 10 minutes they'll be done. So, it wasn't that hard. I think, I have the same ingredients based on season or whatever, seasonal stuff pretty much all the time. I kind of know in my mind that that's the kind of breakfast I want to have. That's the kind of lunch I want to have. That's kind of, and then whatever's not used, sometimes like if I don't eat all the eggs, if I'm like hungry later, I'll just maybe make a sandwich out of it or something. I just, finish it. And, cooking, I think once we get into that groove, we trust ourselves more with our food. We trust ourselves with the flavors. We trust ourselves with what we can put together. And then you realize like, okay, I've got all these little scraps of things. Maybe you can make a soup. Maybe you can throw it into a stew. Maybe you can throw it into a sandwich. And you don't waste the food either. So saves money, saves time, saves your sanity, saves your health.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, absolutely. And it's so powerful. And then these simple things that you can do.
Mellifer says healthy eating can be so much fun. I agree with you. I am really sensitive to my environment and my food, and I think I just remember the days when I didn't really understand real, like my intuition told me gravitate towards real food, but you're being bombarded with the marketing of this and that and the other thing, and I never feel good or happy with junk food. Never ever. It's just it throws your mood in the garbage. We are so affected by sugar and just junk. So I don't tell
it. And you know what you can do, like, so I cook for a family of 8 on a daily basis every day, and so I cook for a family of 8 every day, and then before COVID, every couple weeks, weekends a month, it would go to 20 people I would cook for.
Yeah, you did say that.
But the thing is, and this is the only way I cook. I cook nutrient dense. I'm only going to cook my guests what I would eat myself.
Well, tell everybody how you do that. Because here's one thing I feel that people are most worried about. When they hear nutrient dense and lots of vegetables and low carbs, what do you usually see at gatherings, parties? You see a lot of bread, a lot of rice, something to fill everybody's stomach, right? Or even restaurants, right? What is the first thing they give people? Bread. Fill the stomach. So how do you feed 8 people, 20 people, nutrient dense, without breaking the bank, without, cooking for 2 days straight? Like, tell people how you actually do that.
For me, remember nutrient dense, when you start eating nutrient dense, you actually eat less. When you start eating artificial foods, yes, it may be cheaper, but you're actually eating more. So at the end, it sort of comes out the same.
Yes, I totally agree with that. There's like, we call it barakah, we call it like a blessing, right? When when you have people, like, there's always enough. Really, basically, there's like usually more than you need. But it's true. Like, people don't realize, like, something might not look like there's a lot on the plate. And I experienced this many times in Turkey, where I would go somewhere, or there was one iftar that was actually outside my neighborhood, and when you're so hungry, you're fasting, and you see, and it just didn't look like that much food. And I know fasting is a different issue, but the food that they served was like soup with the bone in.
Wow, awesome.
And vegetables and so on. And it was a small bowl, but I couldn't finish it all. And it wasn't just because I was fasting. I think that broth was just so rich and nutrient dense. And then I realized, we don't need a ton of food. It's not.
We don't need a ton of food.
It's the quality. This is too much for me, actually. I could feed 4 people with this, quite honestly. I really could. 4 people could come. Everyone could have an egg, some cucumbers. We would be fine. And I know that.
Would be fine. And that's what we need to now shift to.
Yes.
You don't have to have a lot of food. It's just the quality of the food.
It is.
They're satiated.
To that.
Absolutely. And so in my house, I mean, the best way, we love our skillets. So focusing on our skillets on a daily basis is super important.
Skillets, like you kind of like put in the oven.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So skillets are super, like, tons of vegetables.
And with the
protein, yeah, and then just have like eggs on top. I love it. And you just make a huge skillet.
Yeah.
Just like what you're doing right now with the spinach and the eggs on top of it. And everybody loves a skillet.
You can eat this with potatoes inside here. I just, whatever. If you have, I've seen one, first time I went to Turkey, my friend's mom had me for overnight. And in the morning she made breakfast. And I don't even remember if there were eggs, but she made mushrooms. She sauteed mushrooms in olive oil. And with a nice plate with cheese on top and some herbs, and it was like one of the best things I've ever had just for breakfast. It was, the mushrooms were like meat, and but there was this spread, and it was just fresh stuff, but watermelon, honeycomb, vegetables. And it was more than enough, and I think there were 3 or 4 of us there, people walking in, eating. There was the abundance. Comes with that nutrient density, and it comes with that. We think about the rising cost of food. I mean, now that I'm back, I think, my gosh, food is expensive here. It is, and especially organic stuff. But I still stick to the things that I know I'm going to eat. I don't kind of veer off into like trendy kind of commercial stuff, and I never do. Just stick to what I know that is good and what I know that I like, and then I'm there's more than enough. It is more
absolutely. And then in my house specifically, like, as when you have a lot of people with lots of different cultures.
Yes.
And we are Indo-Pac, right? Here, so they want their parathas and they want their halwa, and I found replacements for that. So, for example, in my house, I do halwa puri. But I've made the halwa, which is normally out of suji, which is just a cracked meat. But what I've done is, again, nutrient dense. I've made the halwa with, I grinded up walnuts and almonds, and I do it in a little bit of ghee, like grass-fed ghee with a little cardamom, and then I'll saute that the walnuts and the walnuts and the almonds with a little bit of cardamom, and now you get that flavor of the halwa with a little bit of water with honey as a sweetener, and now you have this nutrient dense. So normally you would eat halwa with, like, you would have tons of it. Here you only really need this much because it's so nutrient dense. You can't eat that much, and you're still getting delicious. And then the beans will still do that, and then the puri I make little puris out of arrowroot flour and almond milk and coconut milk and eggs. So there's so many different ways to still have fun, especially when you have a chronic illness and you want to heal and still enjoy those foods. Like you can still have like waffles. You can still have all these delicious things. You just want to focus, again, nutrient.
Yeah. I think you really changed my thinking when I think it was in the first episode, and you said I asked you about even organic wheat, and you were kind of like, nah, don't even go there anymore. And that really has changed my thinking. I think I'm going to have to, because I realize it's not just here, it's around the globe that this is an issue. So it's not like, okay, American wheat versus Italian wheat. It's really happening everywhere. I see so much gluten-free product in Turkey. That must mean that people there are also having the issue of intolerance. People in Europe are having intolerance. So it's not a cultural thing. This is global. It's a global problem.
Absolutely, because we're changing our food.
To adapt, but stick to the real food.
Real food.
I'll be honest, I was a really big skeptic of the gluten-free stuff because it's very expensive and it just seems like the taste would be weird. But now, for health reasons, I think that everybody needs to go back and watch the first episode because you talked so much about the leaky gut. When you realize everything you put into your stomach affects your brain, your thinking, and the reasons why, and when things get out of your gut, break through the lining of your gut, that's a scary prospect. I mean, we're not here to scare you, but it's information that's powerful and that's going to change how you feel, literally.
Mm-hmm. You can still have all your delicious things, but not, sacrifice your hormones, sacrifice your gut bacteria, and unfortunately now we're eating all of these foods, so people actually now eat more food, so we're actually becoming obese. Did you know that 95% of Middle Eastern and North African countries will be diabetic before the age, in the next 10 years? Now that's craziness. It's because we're overeating. Our bodies are looking for nutrients.
And look at the restaurants that are there. It's fast food chains.
Junk.
What is happening? Why? Why are we doing this to ourselves? I mean, we're going to have another webinar after this series, and we're going to talk about halal and tayyib for people who want to really get into that conversation. But that's kind of how we came together, right? We came together on this halal and tayyib topic, halal and wholesome. So not what's just permissible, but what is also pure and wholesome, and translate that to organic, chemical free, or what have you. But that's a whole other topic we need to go deep on, and
absolutely,
how that affects mind, body, soul, right? So
it makes a big difference.
Yeah, I had someone made a comment here saying, yes, you are what you eat.
Yeah,
I totally agree with that. I mean, I can't prove it on a scientific level, but
no, I can prove it on a scientific level.
What's that?
And I said, you can't prove it on a scientific level, but I got the studies to prove it on a scientific
level.
That's how me and you work so well. Because everything that you're saying has scientific backing and medical backing. And that's why it's so super important to focus on nutrient-dense foods to help heal your gut, that are balance your glucose and hormone levels, and is nutrient-dense. So we really get back to the basics, focus on you. I know we have a couple questions. Did you want to go through some?
Say one thing real quick before you get to that? Wouldn't you say that everybody kind of intuitively knows that they're off kilter, they're off balance? Can't you just kind of feel it? Like if we were really in tune with ourselves, if we were really, really,
if we were in tune with ourselves.
If we were in tune with ourselves, right?
Yeah, but we're not in tune with ourselves.
Yeah.
We're not mindful anymore. That's the problem. We're not mindful anymore.
Yeah.
And so we're literally
ignore that topic.
Oh, we have to. That's another huge topic.
But I mean, we're talking about food and nutrition, but it's so connected.
It's so connected. And because right now, what are people doing? We're living fast lives. We're sitting, we're eating whatever fast food is, we're driving, we're stuffing food in our mouth without thinking about it. We're sitting in front of televisions and we're eating. We're nobody sitting down and what is mindful eating? I think we need to discuss this. Mindful eating, seriously.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like, how does a strawberry taste in your mouth? How does what is the feel of this? Like really concentrating on that food, every morsel in your mouth. But we don't do that. We don't enjoy the actual the food in and of itself. We're just shoving it down just to fill a void. I think that's unfortunately what we're doing. We're filling this void with a stuff thing.
You know, and it's amazing. You know, every fruit, every vegetable has a unique property, a unique texture, a unique taste, and we don't even know what those are supposed to be anymore.
No,
It's something our grandparents knew. Like I remember my grandmother being the type that would taste something and she'd say, "Oh, that's not how it's supposed to be," or "That's not right," or you know, and you know, you look at her and go, "How does she?" We just have lost connection to all of that.
we've lost connection.
With the at the expense of like being successful or being, you know, making money or whatever. Like you cannot replace whatever you try to do. You cannot replace your health. You cannot replace your, you know, the beauty of the real taste of food and what nutrients it gives you. So we have to take some steps back to move forward successfully. I feel we have to fix all of this. And if you as a consumer think, well, that's not my job or it's not something I can do, it absolutely is. It's our job because you're going to buy it or don't.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's where, if we were truly mindful of what we were eating in our bodies on a daily basis, I think we just get up every morning and try to get all those tasks done without really sitting and feeling, oh, how am I really truly feeling? Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, we aren't mindful of that. And when we are not mindful of that, then we still continue on that hamster wheel. And
well,
yeah.
If you're not eating right, you don't know how you feel.
No,
because you're in a brain fog.
No, yeah. You have no idea. And then so therefore it's just easier to ignore how you feel and just keep on going on that hamster.
Yes.
So what I'm telling you, I mean, what Yvonne is also saying is that once we take a step back and take a look at our lives and what we're eating and what we're putting in this body that's a temple, and because we truly are what we eat. I know when I was eating, I mean, I grew up on cereal all my life. My mom had an entire, like, for her, food was love. So we had an entire, like, our pantry or basement storage was filled with hundreds of cereals. So every day we can go in and choose a different cereal.
Well, it was the 80s and 90s. That's how it was. You know?
We just didn't know. And now that we know, now that we know, we've seen the studies, we've seen that. So if I can go from eating Raisin Bran every single solitary day to, and like, you know, the cereal and strudels and to nutrient-dense foods, my body is functioning better. Yeah. My brain is functioning better. I have no more, like, I have so much energy now that I can just keep on going without, and this is me intermittent fasting. I can go for hours and hours without eating and still feel energetic.
I agree. I have energy levels that are like through the roof. Sometimes I don't even feel like I mean, I know sleep is super important, but my sleep is getting better, you know, even in like 5-6 hours, it's more quality. It is more quality. You know, it's just what I'm eating. You know,
it's just what you're eating.
So go ahead and
let me go on some questions. I think because there's about only a couple more minutes left. I know here somebody says, I'm not a really big egg eater. What are other options for breakfast? And I think we discussed some of that. You know, like tons of vegetables, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm in my house. We do this chia pudding, delicious chia pudding. We do no grain granola that is super fast every day. And then again,
even other vegetables. If vegetables, you know, doesn't want to do eggs, you can just, like I said, you know, like be creative. I mean, I think that, like you talked about, we grew up on cereal. We have to change the mindset that certain foods are just for certain times of the day. I mean, in Japan,
I love that. Yes, you're absolutely correct.
In Japan, they sometimes eat like rice and fish for breakfast, or beans or something. And you know, other parts of the world, it's like I said, Egypt or Mexico. It's beans. That is protein. You know, that is powerful food. It's plant-based. You know, and like again, the plant-based topic is very trendy, but it's really just going back to the basics. That's what I love about the plant-based idea, and I hope it's not. You know,
yeah, no, it is.
You don't eat eggs, but do some kind of vegetables. They're going to give you lots of nice energy.
Absolutely, and again, nuts and seeds. Remember, tons of different phytonutrients in there, and all those appreciated throughout the day. Another thing, again, in my house, sometimes one of my child has a little sensitivity to eggs. So I've actually started using, whenever I bake, I use like a chia egg or a flax egg. So I mean things like that. So if you have
What's a chia egg?
So a chia egg is, or a flax egg, or even a gelatin egg, is you just mix a little bit of that with a little bit of water, and that becomes the egg substitute. So depending on if they're really sensitive to it, yeah. So that's what I'm doing a lot of my baking now. I've actually gone to and that's I think another question. But we do kebabs, we do chicken, a little bit of that, and then just making sure that they have tons of vegetables. Yes. I think here there was another question that any suggestions for a nut-free, nutrient-dense flour alternative? In my house, we do coconut flour. We do tiger nut flour.
Chickpea, right? You do chickpea too.
Chickpea flours. I know that you can get like cassava flour tortillas that are out there. So cassava flour is another great alternative for a different type of flour. We also use tiger nut. So I mean, so many different flour. Plantain flour. Oh, yum. A lot of people are making pancakes with plantain flours and plantain pancakes. Like there's so many different fun things to do with plantains.
Which reminds me, we talked about shopping last time. I should have said go to like a Caribbean market and find those plantains, yuccas, and things like that. Those are incredibly powerful foods to eat. I mean, like a yucca, for example, it's kind of like a potato, right? A yam, like a yam. And I just had some recently. You just you can boil it, put it in the oven, and it's like a potato with the way it can cook in the oven, or you can make it mashed. And you just feel strong after you eat stuff like that. It's just packed with nutrition. So try different markets. Try Caribbean markets, Latin markets. They have really interesting food. Coconut. They'll have like the whole coconut. If you want to do the drinks, and stuff. Be creative. Be a little bit adventurous with your food shopping, and don't stick to one store.
Absolutely. We have another question here. I have estrogen dominance. What foods to eat and what food should I not eat? So estrogen dominance occurs when a lot of people with estrogen dominance is that you have estrogen dominance is way too much estrogen in your body. And so our hormones are basically out of whack. And most of that really comes from insulin resistance. So people who are estrogen dominant have a higher likelihood of being pre-diabetic or insulin resistant. Wow. So when you're insulin resistant, I would really focus on, again, vegetables, clean protein, and healthy fats. Because remember, what happens in a state of insulin resistance is your body stops listening to the insulin that's there because your blood sugar level is elevated all the time. So people with estrogen dominance or insulin resistance, I have them focus on, again, more foods that are vegetables, clean protein, healthy fats, like more of a keto green type of diet where it's a little bit of protein and then tons of vegetables and not again, vegetables, clean protein, healthy fats. All of those foods actually they don't spike your insulin. And when they don't spike your insulin, it gives your body time to rest and rejuvenate and bring your body and your hormones back into balance. And then actually adding intermittent fasting will also help with the estrogen dominance. But again, vegetables, clean protein, healthy fats, and really trying to avoid grains, dairy, sugar, and processed foods, because all of those will spike your insulin levels. And that's why we focus on, again, nutrient-dense foods that help heal your body. So I hope that answers a question.
I think that was all of the questions. Are there any other last questions?
Excellent. I think that was it. I know healthy eating can be so much fun and it's so exciting. And back to
Sorry, I accidentally took myself off. So are there any last minute questions before we sign off?
So I think we're pretty good where we can sign off here. There was great questions. Thank you guys all for participating. It was a lot of fun. And then again, we'll have all the stuff in the newsletters. I have it on my my blog also, so does Yvonne. So again, there's so much hope, there's so much healing, and we can start our day nutrient dense to optimize our immune system.
Join us every week at the same time. We're going to be doing a different topic. I think next week we're going to talk about lunch, right?
Ooh,
lunch. Snacks, kids stuff, all kinds of topics. So
we have a lunch date. Yeah.
We have a lunch date. So COVID is not going to stop us. We are still connecting.
We are lunch dating.
Yes, we are still connecting. Yeah. So we wish you guys all a healthy, safe week, and we hope to see you again next week. If you still have questions, keep them coming, and we'll check back the feed and see if there's anything we need to answer. And then just again, check out our social media pages, our websites, sign up for our newsletters. There's just so much information. It just depends where you go to get all of it. So it's going to be around.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you guys.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.